to U.S. History, Cause and Effect.
Psst, Jenna, this isn't your show. You don't have, like, the right glasses or, like, adult status. You're just a kid. Man, get out of here. It's my show.
Well, sorry.
Sorry about that, folks. I mean, we all know Jenna's a go-getter, but when it comes time to putting a shadow over my spotlight, not having it. So back to today's cause and effect topic. It's one of the most incredible engineering feats of its day, the connecting link from east to west, the Transcontinental Railroad. First of all, let's quickly establish what the Transcontinental Railroad was. Obviously, first and foremost, it's a railroad. So it's a pathway for trains and their cargo and passengers to travel. A transcontinental railroad would be a railroad that spans the entire distance of a continent. In the case of the United States and North America, that means ensuring there are railroad connections spanning from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. So now let's talk about the reasons for building a railroad traversing the entire continent. Cause number one is the fact the United States had spread all the way to the Pacific Ocean to begin with. It can be traced back to a concept called manifest destiny, or the idea it was both justified and inevitable that the United States would indeed expand from the Atlantic coast all the way to the Pacific coast. This idea was most popular in the mid-1800s, at a time when the U.S. had recently purchased Louisiana from France and was gaining territory from Spain and Mexico through treaties and wars. People had moved to California during the gold rush. People were headed to Oregon via wagon train. But now that they were out there on the West Coast, there needed to be a reliable and modern supply and transportation route connecting the isolated Westerners to the rest of the country. Cause number two for the Transcontinental Railroad is physical geography. Yes, geography. Love geography. There is a pretty significant physical feature that is situated between the Pacific Coast and the Mississippi River, Great Plains region, where the Eastern railroads had ended previously. Can you picture it on your mental map? Do you see it? Do you have it? The Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains are tough to cross by foot, by horse, or by wagon, and you can basically forget about transporting any significant cargo through them without significant cost, time, and risk. A transcontinental railroad would allow shipping and migration through the mountains with relative ease. I guess you could say cause number three was advancements in technology. Covered wagons just weren't the way to travel anymore. The steam engine had opened an entirely new chapter in how goods and people moved throughout the world, and constructing a transcontinental railroad was the United States' way of capitalizing on it. So, due to those reasons, the Transcontinental Railroad was built between 1863 and 1869. The Western Pacific Railroad Company built track from the San Francisco area to Sacramento, where the Central Pacific Railroad Company of California picked it up and began building eastward. Meanwhile, the Union Pacific Railroad Company was building track west from Council Bluffs, Iowa and Omaha, Nebraska. The two tracks met in Utah in 1869, finally creating a transportation link from the west coast to the more populated east. So, how did that affect the country moving forward? Effect number one was the increase in white western settlement. Much of the main line runs along the fertile Platte River, so with good soil and railroad access, it became a popular area for new towns and villages to sprout up. This was a good situation for whites from the east that wanted new economic opportunity and a fresh start. Goods could be transported faster and cheaper, and there was plenty of money to be made. This was a very positive impact on the thousands of white settlers that came to the area. However, you might notice I've been stressing white settlers so far. It was not a good situation for Native Americans that called those lands home before construction of the railroad. Effect number two is kind of a two-part effect, but overall it was just a very bad situation for Native American tribes in the American West. First, much of the land surrounding the tracks that had been considered public before its construction became either privately owned by the railroad companies or government-owned to then be used by the railroad companies. Since the Native Americans didn't feel the same way about people owning land, this did not mesh with their lifestyle. Speaking of their lifestyle, many of the native tribes in the West lived off the buffalo, hunting them for food, clothing, and shelter, and following them as they roamed the plains. Once the railroad was constructed, it began a process of more and more rail lines being built off of it, effectively carving up the entire West with the rail lines acting as physical barriers to where the buffalo could roam. The railroads also brought Eastern sportsmen who wanted adventurous hunting trips, Teddy Roosevelt included. They shot and killed buffalo by the thousands, but did not actually use the parts of the buffalo like the Native Americans did. As the buffalo disappeared, so did the Native Americans' way of life. The combination of those two effects led to a longer period of increased tension and violence between white settlers and Native Americans that led to the creation of reservations, a series of wars, and lots of political and economic and societal issues that plagued Native American tribes for centuries. Of course, all of those issues can't solely be blamed on the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, but you can definitely see the connection. Well, that's all for this episode. Hopefully you got something out of it. Next time you ride a train, which is probably never, maybe you'll think of this stuff. But until next time, bye-bye.
Once you stop it.
Hey, what's up? I'm Mr. Honish, and today we will be talking about Reese's peanut butter cups. Did I say it right, Mr. Honish?
Reese's.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jenna Mosley.
Ha!
And then Mr. Honish says it. He's like, "He doesn't really know." I'm Jenna Mosley. Hey, what's up? Question mark. I'm Mr. Honish, and welcome to the U.S. History cause and effect period. Today's apostrophe S topic is I don't know.
Jenna's obsessive listing of punctuation.
Yeah.
It's 12.
Bye-bye. Was that good?
Sure.
Wait,
And we
That's not
recorded the
recorded.
whole thing.
No!
Ayo.
here, dang it.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jenna Mosley. You're supposed to come in, Mr. Honish.
What am I?
You're supposed to
Sorry about that. Now that the lowly members of my production crew have learned their place and gone back to being, that just sounds mean.